Hi everyone, this is Jay West and the show is Directions Television, and it's great to be with you today. Directions is all about interviewing guests who have had directional changes in their life and how that has impacted them, how they've trusted God, how they've walked it through, maybe they're still walking it through, and each guest has had a different story. We've had people that have been unemployed, we've had people changing jobs, going to retirement, going back into the workforce, dealing with death, dealing with major sickness like stage 4 cancer and so on. Today's guest is not dealing with those bad things, but a good thing. He owns a major coffee place in Omaha called Stories Coffee. Dan Loutzenhiser, good to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Jay.
So give us a little background about how pre-Stories Coffee. I know you were in some food business prior to that. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I was in healthcare.
Oh, healthcare. Okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking you did some food thing too, though. So.
Not quite.
Okay.
Did a couple, small-time jobs, waiting tables and such through college, but was in healthcare. I was director of operations for CHI Health here in Omaha.
Okay.
Went and did my master's and got accepted into some program that they had there, and was kind of working my way up the corporate ladder.
Okay. What did that look like at CHI? I mean, what did that, was it like a 60, 70-hour a week job? Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Did you have a lot of employees underneath you? What did that look like?
I had a lot of great people working with me, so obviously it helped to have a good team. Putting in a lot of long hours, but also balancing, a couple kids at home, a couple toddlers. So just from the moment you wake up until you go to sleep, you're always doing something, either work related or kids or the family. But yeah, it was a good job, that's for sure.
So what in your mind brought the change to leave that and go into something different?
It was 2015, and just like I said, I was kind of climbing the corporate ladder, and my wife had become ill and had gone in for a couple tests and such, and didn't realize it at the time, but she had a infection and was very sick. And so in March of 2015, she had passed away, and my son, she was pregnant at the time, passed away as well, and that kind of just really changed, a lot of things in my life. Obviously, very impactful, and my personal, as far as in family, but also my faith, and then too, just created a time in my life where I really needed to reflect and seek God and some wise counsel. And I think at that moment I pivoted quite a bit, obviously moving out of a corporate life and into a small business, such as running a coffee shop. Didn't know at the time specifically that was what God would lead me to, but had a time there in my life where things just really changed. And that event in itself, obviously I look back to it knowing there was a lot of tough times, and there still continues to be things I reflect on and navigate, but it was quite an adjustment going from corporate into small business.
So I didn't realize, we had talked before and visited, I didn't realize you had also lost a child at the same time. I'm very sorry about that. I just can't imagine. We both lost our wives, and so I understand that aspect. Losing a child simultaneously must have been just very grievous. How did you navigate just that? Did you have a lot of friends? Did you have a lot of prayer? Did you just kind of vegetate, and did you isolate? I don't know. I ran to people. A lot of people isolate. They run away from people. So I just wonder what you did.
Yeah, I was fortunate to have a really great family and friend group, and obviously faith. But another big aspect of it was I had two kids, a 4 and a 2-year-old at the time, and had a huge responsibility on me, and so with the support system that I had, and just a constant reminder that I needed to be there for my girls, I just dug deep and took it one day at a time. But I definitely value the faith and just the support that I had from my parents from an early age, that didn't realize how much I needed it at that time, but definitely got me through.
So you have major directional changes. You're in a corporate world, your wife and your child die, you're processing all that, then you're making, somewhere along the line, you're making a decision to go into something else. Yeah. Walk us through some of those steps. I mean, did it just happen immediately? Were you already dreaming about a coffee shop when you were at CHI?
No, it was kind of organic in that I was seeking purpose and a reason to step forward into the career path, and knew the verse in the Bible about true religion is taking care of widows and orphans. And so my faith, obviously being rocked a lot by losing my wife and child, kind of clung to this childlike kind of faith, and knowing that we're here for such a short time, I needed to do something with my life. So took our passion for roasting coffee. My dad and I roasted coffee as just a hobby, and love for building business and just growing things, and thought, why not open a coffee shop? And so it kind of just came about through different conversations and prayer. Originally it was going to be called Restoring Grounds. Obviously we wanted to focus on helping people, helping widows and orphans, as I said. But we had a great opportunity with Stories Coffee House closing on 180th and Pacific, and recognizing just that name in itself and the value of continuing the story of Stories Coffee House.
Mm-hmm. So somewhere along the line, you met somebody new too, right?
Yep.
So
Brooke.
So tell us about that a little bit before we get fully into the Stories Coffee thing.
Yeah. Another crazy, God thing that hadn't really been looking, and I was at a friend's Christmas party, and got introduced to her, and we hit it off right away, and just found a way to connect over family and faith, and obviously I was very attracted to her, and so she came into a situation with me and my two girls, and just was an amazing addition. She took on them as well as myself, and she really fanned the fire and the passion to continue this idea, and was one of the ones that really pointed out the opportunity with Stories Coffee House. So
Okay.
she's also in healthcare as well. She's
really?
a nurse practitioner at Children's. Yep.
Oh, okay. At Children's House. Interesting. Well, I have a friend that works there, so maybe we talk
Yeah.
about that. In fact, I was talking to him on the phone this morning. So now that's another directional change,
Yep.
right? I mean, it's amazing. And you, how long did you date or whatever till you got married?
We were dating for I think 6 or so months, and then engaged, and then about a year and a half before we actually got married. So in 2017. So yeah, it was just wild to kind of see how God brought us together. Like I said, not really looking, but He knew what was best for me, which was amazing, and knew that was a specific person to come into my life to help me in my situation personally, and then with the kids, and then now with the businesses that we have.
I mean, we actually have some amazing parallels. About 2 years from your previous wife passing away to when you got married. That's the same with me. My wife passed away, then I get married to Rebecca.
Yeah.
You leave one job, it's corporate, into starting something pretty much from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
I leave pastoring to start something pretty much from scratch, traveling. That's just interesting, the parallels.
Yeah.
So we've walked similar lines, and I get remarried to Rebecca, you get remarried to Brooke. I don't have two little ones.
Yeah.
You know my son, he teaches
yeah.
your little ones,
Yep.
or has taught them. So now let's segue to stories. How did you launch it? I mean, in my mind, there's so many things. You got to have capital. You got to have a vision. You got to figure out how to have connect. Your father roasts coffee, okay, but you still got to have a connection. Mm-hmm. You got to buy supplies. You got to hire staff. You got to, and your coffee shop is so much different than any other coffee store in town. Is that correct? Would you
Yeah,
agree?
I would believe so. Yeah.
I mean, because of how you serve all into the evening, you were serving food, and you would have ministry groups and all sorts of things that are different. So tell us how all that unfolded.
Yeah, just a very, naively stepping into it and not knowing specifically what we, were missing. And so obviously a lot of just research and reading and traveling to see other shops. And
I was going to ask, did you become friends with other coffee owners or CEOs?
Now a bit more. I wish I had known. We didn't know anybody, and very much stepping into a restaurant world that, again, I had probably never knew. I didn't know a whole lot of owners, but knew a lot of people in the business world. So kind of took some of the similarities from those industries and stepped into the restaurant world. But Yeah, we look back on those days and realize just how many mistakes we made and how many pivots we made, and it was a lot of learning on the fly. And so starting small, starting in 17, we had a cart, and we kind of figured out our menu that way, and then stepped into a bar at Lifegate that they built out, a coffee bar. And so we didn't step into what it is now without taking some small, baby steps towards there. So that
Okay,
did
so the
help
first
a little
step
bit.
was a what?
A mobile coffee cart.
Mobile coffee,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
back in 2017.
Okay. And then Lifegate was your second location?
The cart was positioned out of Lifegate, and then
Oh, it
it
was,
became kind of more of established as they went through renovation there and built out a coffee bar for us. So that was in 2017 and 18, and then 2020 is when we opened up on 114th Street, and that became kind of our flagship brick and mortar
That's
location.
massive. I mean, that's the biggest coffee place I think I've ever seen in my life. And I travel all over the country. I see lots of coffee places.
Yeah, I bet.
Because I love coffee, and there's different brands that I like in different parts of the country. How did you, in your mind, just choose to? I mean, it seems like that's a big step from the little thing at Lifegate to this massive building at 114th. So how did you? What brought that on?
Well,
Was it just convenience? Was it
no, God had brought it
opportunity?
together, and I remember sitting on the patio with Brooke, and we were talking about Peter stepping out into the water and saying, we've got this thing, we've got this brand, we've got this momentum, but how do we step out even further into the water where it's going to push us? And so we didn't realize how big of a step out into that we were taking, but we just through different doors being closed, actually were, put into this position of starting at 114th. Didn't realize at the time just how great of a spot it was. We had some idea that it would be, but it turned out to be just a great space for the community, and great parking, drive-through, and, just proximity to Dodge Street. So a lot of things that went into it that we thought, but we're really now looking back.
You have major competition right across the street.
Yeah,
In some way, I mean, it's a smaller thing, but Starbucks is a well-known name, and they're right across the street. But every time I have stories, I look over there aren't very many cars there, and there's a whole lot of cars in yours.
Yeah.
So that's a blessing, I'm sure. So
yeah, definitely during COVID, there was just this time period where people weren't able to get out, and I think when we opened back up, and Starbucks was still closed, I believe, the community was just craving a spot to connect, and so we were that spot, and I think it just created this great awareness and momentum that we took into it, and so looking back, it was a tough time to open a location with all the lockdowns, but coming out of it, I think it was actually did help us as a business.
So tell us about how you. I'm curious. Tell us about how you developed your menu, because you have a lot of things on your menu.
Yeah.
So how did and that's one of the things that makes you distinctive from a lot of other coffee places, I think.
Yeah, we try not to have too many things, but enough to really showcase the fact that we have a kitchen. We cook things on site versus just microwaving them or taking them from frozen. So we have a little bit more of a food heavy focus, but we took a lot of inspiration from traveling, in Portland and some of the East Coast. Just my wife and I, we used to travel quite a bit before we had 4 kids, but we just wanted to create a space that would be welcoming and a place that we would want to hang out at. And
Speaking of Portland, I was just in Portland. I was there for National Day of Prayer and speaking and stuff, and there was a coffee place nearby, and so we went in there, and they had a coffee drink. I'm not suggesting you have it, but it was one of the most delicious ones I ever had. They combined strawberry and chocolate together.
Oh, yeah?
And it literally tasted like a chocolate-covered strawberry. I've never tasted anything so good. So different places around town, I've asked, do you have strawberry? Yes, I know they have chocolate or mocha.
Yeah.
So I've combined it, and I just keep ordering it over and over and over. So it's delicious.
might be on our fall menu then.
Maybe it was really, really good. So I'm not trying to dictate that to you, but
Love it.
so you guys also did like things like salads and things like that in the evening, and maybe sandwiches, and and your prices. We went, my son and I went there one time in the evening. It was like, wow, this is, you get a lot of salad for a very reasonable price.
We should probably increase our pricing, is what you're saying, huh?
Pardon?
We probably should increase our pricing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just saying. No, it was really good.
We're trying to balance, being
obviously the room wasn't as full in the
economical.
evening because people drink coffee more.
Yeah.
They don't want to stay awake all night, so they're not going to drink it at night. Coffee doesn't do that to me. I can drink coffee and fall right asleep just like that.
Same way.
So it doesn't matter to me. But so you have all this going, and I'll be real honest. Most, like you said, most coffee places, the food is, you have to microwave it.
Yeah.
And it's prepackaged. It's come from somewhere else. I'll be really honest, and I'm a coffee connoisseur kind of guy. You know, like I said, I travel over and drink lots of coffee, lots of places. There's an original place that comes with National Community Church in Washington, D.C. called Ebenezer's, and I just love that place. But most coffee places do not have good food. It's just not very good at all, and yours is excellent. So,
well, thank you.
So that speaks highly to however you have put it together to have food, have breakfast sandwiches, and so on. And it's not just that location. The one in Gretna is equally, you know. And tell us about the Gretna site a little bit.
Yeah, that one came about in 22. Looking to expand, obviously, our second opportunity to take the concept elsewhere. And Gretna, obviously, a big growing community here in Omaha. The option was there to get into that space pretty early as far as just the growth goes, but it's such a tight community. I'm from O'Neill, Nebraska. It reminds me a lot of there. Obviously, there's an influence of Omaha, but a lot more of just, you know, knowing who the regulars are and so-and-so likes to sit here. And so it's a cool kind of Omaha feel, but definitely still feels like that small town.
Different question, and then we'll come right back. Do you know Pastor Don White?
From?
He's from here, but he was born and raised in O'Neill.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's when you said that. I thought, okay, you
sure.
guys should connect sometime.
Usually if somebody's from O'Neill, I know him because it's a pretty small community.
He moved here from there, so anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, you should meet him sometime.
My father probably does.
Yeah, so you're in Gretna. Now, Gretna is similar to 114th, but smaller, but not.
Correct.
I mean, if we didn't know about 114th, we would think Gretna's a big place.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, I really like your Gretna location. I like the patio better, personally.
Yep.
And I like the inside and like it's big enough to feel like, okay, I can get something done. It's small enough to feel like I'm not going to be overwhelmed. It's not as noisy as the 114th.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's definitely busy and loud and all sorts of things at 114th.
Right. So you have another location coming up, or is it already open?
Opened 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so I'm behind. I've been traveling so much. I've been out of state. I've missed some of these things. I'm so sorry. So
it's all right.
Yeah, so I missed the mayor being inaugurated, and I've been friends with him for years and prophesied over here many times to get, and he's there, and I missed that, and so I'm missing all sorts of things. So anyway, tell us about your new location.
Just a culmination of a lot of things that we've taken from the other locations and built them into a spot on 156th and Maple, just off of Maple on Spalding Street. Beautiful. You know, my wife has done a great job just design-wise to kind of bring in a lot of the similarities as far as design, but add some new touches to it. So,
do you have another location? Don't you have another one?
We have one in Lincoln inside of Union Bank,
okay.
And then a drive-through at 107th and Q. So it's a drive-through only location.
On where?
Small patio.
170th and what?
107th and Q.
Oh, okay.
Just east of the 108th and Q intersection, north of like Rotella's and that area.
Okay, so you have one in Lincoln in a bank. How does that work?
Great. Yeah, Union Bank came to us just with wanting to do this inside of a nice historic building downtown Lincoln, and we'd been banking with them a bit at the time, so it was just a great opportunity to build upon that relationship.
But you can't be can you be open later like you are at the other locations?
We were for a bit, but it's just downtown traffic is just
Yeah.
a bit different, so we close at 5:30.
You close at 5:30.
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's see. That's 1, 2, 3. That's 4 locations.
We have 6.
Oh, 6.
Yep.
Boy,
Lifegate
I'm so
still
far
has a
behind.
location.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like keeping track of our kids.
Okay.
It's just,
All right.
But
What's the other one? What's the one I'm missing?
there's 114th, Spalding, Gretna, Lifegate, Q Street, and then Lincoln.
Okay.
Yep.
Going for more? Going for 10?
We'll see. You know, I'd really like to expand our retail presence, getting into some grocery stores and just kind of build upon the fact that we roast our own coffee. We've got an 8,000 square foot roasting facility capable of a lot of growth. So like to really focus on that while also looking for the next spot. But if you have any ideas as far as the Papillion, Bellevue area, please let me know. I think it would go over pretty well there.
Okay. So where do you buy your coffee?
We import it in through an importer, either through Kansas City or there's one on the West Coast. And the coffee's from all over the world. Our espresso's from Brazil. It's a blend of Brazilian beans. Our drip is Costa Rican, and our cold brew is from Guatemala. And then we get a lot of different other varieties in just to have for retail. And
so there's so many coffee shops all over the world. And coffee's primarily grown where? In South America, Central America?
Yeah, and
So
I mean Africa.
how do you differentiate between all these coffee places not coming up with something that's similar to everybody else? How does that
I think there's just
happen?
so many different ways of not only where to pick it from, but also ways to prepare it. We roast it, so there's a little bit of elements with that. So you can roast it differently. You can brew it. You can prepare it through the espresso machine a bit differently too. So there's just a lot of. It's a very unique product. There's a lot of different touch points with
My
it.
wife loves your lavender. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And your honey lavender. I think it's honey
Yeah,
lavender. She
yeah.
really likes that one. So keep that one, okay? So
Okay. Well.
because that's close to where we live, and we can get it. So, are you guys involved in the community?
Yeah. So every quarter we support a different nonprofit. Right now we're doing the 50-mile march. When I started, when we started, we were very wanting to employ, people that are needing a second chance, and we've attempted a bit of that. Now we're partnering more with organizations. It's a very I say difficult, but it's just a very involved process to really take on a lot of that. So at some point we'll do much more focus on an employment opportunity type of work, but right now we're supporting organizations that are doing good in the community.
So, you left corporate, CHI. You're doing this. Were you busier then, or are you busier now?
I'm always busy. It's just different ways. I always like to be at, in my bed at night researching something, and this is just a different type of busy. Obviously, it's always on. It's something's breaking, and so I wouldn't say it's any less busy. It's just it's all consuming, I guess, and I like it.
I remember when some of the pipes or sewage or something backed up in the Gretna thing next door or whatever.
Yeah.
I was thinking that had to be costly and expensive, and it wasn't even your fault. And so
yeah, it was expensive, and it's just always something like that, and just got to be willing.
Kind of like being a landlord.
Yeah.
If you have several properties and you rent them to people, you're on call to water heater breaks. You got to fix it for them. So.
Oh yeah, yeah. We had an espresso machine, a drive-through machine yesterday, and an ice machine all go down at once, and so they're all back up working. But it's just try to prepare, but there's always something that happens.
Tell us about reward cards. How does that work?
Yeah, so we have our point of sale system is Toast. Toast in itself has a way for us to plug in through their machines. So if you buy something through those machines, you register through our rewards program. You get I think it's 10% off over time, but you earn rewards credit, and then you can redeem them back in for.
I lost some credit. I changed the credit card. I thought my ID was tied into my phone number, but I found it was tied into my credit card.
Yeah.
And I said, well, how come I'm not getting rewards? And they said, well, your credit card's not even in here. And I said, what? It was like,
we can always fix that on the back end.
So we put that back in. It's always a learning curve for the customers of all the technology things.
Yeah, there's
my wife
pros
and I
and
were talking
cons.
about last night. She knows so much more about technology than I do, and it's so.
My kids do too, as well, for me.
So is your wife? I know she does the medical thing, but how much involvement is she in with the coffee business?
She's very involved. She does all of our social media, our events. She's just always involved somehow in many different aspects. We get a lot of messages through our inbox, and she's down at the shops helping, with just the design and such. So very involved. Not necessarily in all the day in, day out operations like I am, but we make a pretty good team.
Are you guys still at LifeGate?
Yep.
So you haven't shared too much. Share a little bit about the spiritual component of your walk, dating way back, CHI, your wife passing, Brooke, the coffee. How does God interface with you, and how has your pastors or leaders or friends brought that component into your life?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the church, and my dad being a pastor, I was there every Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and had a true faith, component with God, and believed in Him. And it wasn't really until Kim passed away that I understood just how He could help in that large scale of a situation for me, and really tested my faith and made me really step into what I believed. And it did really bring me back a bit to childlike faith, where I was really questioning God and questioning why bad stuff happens like this. And so kind of, like Job's journey, just kind of stepping back and respecting the fact that God is sovereign and knowing all that He is in control of everything was freeing. You know, it didn't make things any better in terms of the loss.
Right.
But getting through all that and really focusing on my family and you know what I was called to do allowed me to kind of get through that very, very difficult time spiritually that, you know, I've always been, you know, a believer, and maybe through this of now walking with a limp and, you know, sense of Jacob or whoever it was that was, you know, tested, but definitely was a testing time for me spiritually. And now going through this, I hope that my faith is capable of weathering, you know, future storms, as they will, and I know everybody goes through one.
Right.
But yeah, it's been a journey to say the least.
Yeah, one of my recent guests was Bill Bowes, and was the Papillion fire chief, and he lost his wife, and then he retired, and then he got remarried like I did, and now he's running for state legislator, so he's you know, doing a new thing too. But this journey of losing a family member, and I've had other people who have lost children and different. We had a lady here whose son was murdered on the streets here in Omaha, and just how that felt for her 29-year-old son, you know. So, yeah, loss seems to be a part of life.
Yeah.
So, thank you for sharing your testimony.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here. Thanks for being authentic. We have less than a minute. How long were you and Kim married?
So we were married in 2008, and then she passed away in 2015. So but we had met in high school, so I'd known her since 2002.
So, you know, if you're watching today, you've heard story after story after story on my show about people who have gone through loss, gone through trials, gone through difficulties, gone through change. And like Dan here, coming out on the other side, if we had another 5 minutes, I'd have you share advice for them. But reach out to him maybe. Can they find you? Which stories are you at the most?
I'm all over.
You're all
so
over.
Email dan@storiescoffeecompany.com is probably the best way.
Okay, we'll put that email on the bottom, and you know, maybe he can give you encouragement or advice if you're thinking about starting something new. So this is Directions TV. Thanks for tuning in today. God bless you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.